Hey, what's up? Matthew here, and welcome to the very first episode of the Matthew Morgan Show podcast. This is a podcast that I never intended to make. I had no idea I wanted to do a podcast and still don't know what I want to do with it, but I was lucky enough to get on a call with Ben Settle, who is a very well-known email marketer and email copywriter. So if you're in the copywriting space, you've seen me speak about him a couple of times on my channel, but luckily I just sent him an email a couple of months ago seeing if he would like to get on a call or do a podcast or do a YouTube video, and he said yes. So luckily we did it this week. We had a few problems the first time we did it, but the first episode of this podcast is just going to be an interview with me and Ben. It's on my MacBook, so it's not the best quality, but it's obviously the content of it's going to be much better, so that's going to make up for it. Now, as I said, I haven't planned out this podcast much, but I think it's going to be about marketing, business, just entrepreneurship and life in general. I'm going to try and keep it to the stuff I usually talk about in the channel here, but obviously keep it interesting as well. And I might put it up on Spotify or Apple Music. Just let me know if you're watching this where you would like to see it, because I honestly didn't have a plan for the podcast. It's just because Ben came on, I thought, okay, I'll just make this into a weekly podcast. And yeah, obviously I haven't had time to post YouTube videos recently because my business has grown a lot and I haven't had time to pump out like 3 videos a week like I used to, but hopefully this is going to make up for it if I can do one of these a week. But yeah, as I said, leave a comment, like, all that sort of stuff. And if you're interested in getting my paid course, Copywriting Blueprint, I'm actually going to double the price to $997. So if you're interested, it's currently priced at around £356, which is about $500. So if you're interested, I'm going to pump that up in a couple of weeks. I'm going to up the price because honestly it's way too undervalued for the price I'm currently offering it at. So if you want to get in before it goes to $997, I'll leave a link in the description for that as well. Now, as I said, this was filmed on a MacBook and it was just a Zoom call with Ben, so there are a couple of times where the Wi-Fi cuts out and stuff, but it's not too often. I've cut it out and made it nice and smooth in the actual video. So I'm going to stop rambling. Enjoy the video. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe, and thank you very much for watching. Yo, what's up? Matthew here, and in this episode of the podcast, this is going to be our first episode of the Matthew Morgan Show, and I'm joined by Ben Settle. So it's a pretty big guest for the very first episode of this podcast. But Ben, if you don't know who he is one of the world's best copywriters. He's been at the top of his game with email copywriting for the last 15 years, and he's done tens of millions of dollars in sales with his clients and his own personal brand. And if you're a beginner copywriter, or if you're a copywriter at any stage of your career, chances are you've heard of Ben. So I thought I'd just say a quick intro and say hello to Ben. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
All good. Yeah, we had a few problems the last time trying to get this call going, but luckily we're all good now. Zoom's not doing us over. But yeah, if you wanna let me know, like what are you up to at the minute in 2021?
Well, I'll tell you right now, this year is and last year is the same way, but this year especially is the year of software platforms for me. We're launching a social media platform, and later this year we'll be launching a email marketing platform and a shopping cart platform, and maybe squeeze in another platform by the end of the year. I don't know, but that's what, like, just today we're launching our social layer platform.
That's great.
So I'm more into that than the copywriting stuff right now.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was like, I've heard that you've been quite like a one-man team the past couple of years, and I was wondering if it's still like that for you, or have you grown?
It is. I am a one-man band when it comes to my regular company, but I also partner in actually 3 software companies. Those companies have teams and all that, but I don't deal with them.
Yeah.
I just do copywriting and marketing stuff, and I'm just not a team player, so it's better they just keep me away from all teams.
Yeah. I mean, the same. I don't like dealing with people is like a weak point for me, so it's
exactly.
partner with someone who can do it, and then we'll do what we're good at. Yeah, is it like I was interested in starting some sort of software as a service as well, but I didn't really have a clue what to do. I was thinking, yeah, something along email marketing. But how do you think you're gonna compete with like the big guys? Is it, I suppose you're more focused on the marketing, but
Yeah, no, it's a good question. As far as the email side, I've spent the last 20 years building up a following, so we'll have a built-in audience. It won't be huge. It's not going to be hundreds of thousands of users off the gate. And in fact, that wouldn't work too well if it was, because the nature of software is you don't really want too many people getting in at once.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the help desk just can't handle that kind of stuff. But we're approaching the email platform side. So it's me. I've been doing email for a long time. Okay, so from the copywriting side, I don't know anybody who's written and or recorded combined as much content about teaching email copywriting than I have. And I don't say this as bragging. I'm just saying, like, it's just a practical matter that
Yeah.
anybody could look up. I've had a newsletter called Email Players. I think
Yeah.
it's 10th year now.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
would, I
that,
would, I would agree. Yeah. Like I remember you were literally the first person. So I think I was watching like videos about copywriting and I saw a Nate Schmidt video. I'm not sure if you know him. He does like
yeah,
Twitter and stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
And he had mentioned to check out your email list. And then I remember going on your website and you had like 2,000 pages of blog posts and emails and stuff. So it's just like incredible how much information's out there for it. But
yeah. And not to mention, God knows how many books and hundreds of hours of audio and video.
yeah,
And so I bring that to the table. And then my business partner, Troy Broussard, there's nobody better in the world than him at email automation. Like,
yeah,
he's the automation guy. Like, nobody even, like, he's an ex-Navy nuclear engineer. He was the director of technology for Encyclopedia Britannica, running like a $15 million department of programmers. He's been doing this software thing for a long time. And so we got together one day, a couple of years ago, and we were talking about how shitty all these other email platforms are.
yeah,
Some are better than others. I don't want to say they're all crap, because I really don't think they're all crap.
yeah,
But none of them are created by or run by people who actually do email marketing on a daily basis for their own businesses.
yeah,
They're just not. So that's what we bring to the table. Is this is for marketers, by marketers. It's like, if there was a magical genie that would just create the perfect email platform for marketers who actually do daily emails and aggressive email, that's our goal. Like, this is what as fanboys of email want to see. And
yeah.
so that's what that is.
Definitely. I've had it where I use Kajabi at the minute for, just because I've got like a digital course and all that sort of stuff. And I've had email broadcasts where I send them out and it comes up as like 1% delivered or something, and it takes like 24 hours for it to come through. So I don't know how many people have actually seen my stuff.
Well, yeah, that's not that uncommon, man. I mean, I can tell you right now, if you want to hear a horror story, my my woman Stefania, she she uses a very pop. I'm not going to name anything, because I'm not trying to spread dirt or anything, but I'm saying she uses a very popular, very big program for email, and they weren't even delivering any of her emails except to her buyers list. So she had
Yeah.
a 4,000 person
Jesus.
list, right?
Yeah.
And but only about 800 people would actually get her emails. So she switched to another program, another email provider that gets very good delivery,
Yeah.
only to find out that those 4,000 people that weren't getting her emails. Sorry about that. Yeah, something's
Oh
going
yeah.
on with my
All
Bluetooth
good.
there. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah, all good, yeah.
Okay, so I don't know what that was. I apologize. I have no idea. Between the
Hi.
two of us, dude, we're like plagued with technology problems.
Yeah. Perfect.
So,
Awesome. Well, my internet's been out for like 2 weeks, so luckily we're back here. Like,
no, that's fine. Anyway, my point is this: she switched to another company that's actually a very good company. I've nothing bad to say about them, but she got so many spam complaints because the delivery was too good
yeah.
compared to her last. So, needless to say, she's not even using email until we get our new one up that we're actually creating.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. It's just it's a maze out there,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of feature bloat and that kind of stuff, and I don't know. So
Yeah,
that's what we're trying to do.
it's a lack of like somebody actually specializing in it, more of just people trying to fill the gap of, oh, we'll just make an email marketing software and
Oh yeah.
catch that
Oh,
market.
it's funny, man. I mean, like, if you really look at a lot of these, and I know it sounds like I'm just shilling ours, but it's not even for sale yet, so I'm not. But that's marketing. But there's a lesson here for anybody. I mean, look for things in your market, whatever you're selling. It doesn't have to be software. It could be anything. If you're an actual user of whatever it is you sell, you're going to see the holes. You're going to see things. A lot of people just get into markets because, oh, that's where the money is.
Yeah.
That's not a smart thing to do. you got to have take the Steve Jobs approach where you look for a wrong that needs to be righted, and that you're passionate about, like you're
Yeah,
pissed off that this problem exists. And
exactly. Yeah, I think like you're 100%, because the whole reason I started a YouTube channel was I started freelance copywriting, and basically I had to go around like 50 different places to find the information. And I thought, I wish somebody would put this into like practical YouTube videos and do tutorials of how to set up like a professional email and how to send out emails and find leads and all that stuff. And I think it was more of like me just wanting to explain it so that I could have it there for myself. And eventually, like my first digital product was just a email template package, so it was just the best cold emails I would send out to companies, and package that up. It done really well, and people still get like really good response rates to this day. So you're definitely right with that, like. But yeah, I was going to say, the with the whole email automation, um what's your opinion on like funnels and all that sort of stuff?
it's funny about funnels because the concept has been around forever. Like direct marketing has been around for a long, long time. But whenever I hear the word funnels and everybody's talking about funnels now, it amuses me because I think people complicate it way beyond what it needs to be. you know, Direct response marketing is very simple.
Yeah.
You get a lead, you sell that lead something, and then when they become a buyer, you sell them something else, right?
Yeah.
Most people never even make it to that point before they're buying $500 a month software on creating elaborate funnels. And
Yeah.
it's just, you don't need to do that. I mean, I'm not anti-funnel or anything. I'm just saying, I think people really have to focus on the first steps, the beginning part. And
Yeah.
it's real, focus on getting better leads. I'll
Yeah.
put it this way, your business can be way better off if you focus on curating and getting better leads than having a more complicated funnel. Like that comes later. But most people want to start with the complex thing first and ignore the fundamentals.
Definitely. And would you say, like, I watched an old podcast of yours with, I'm not sure who it was, but you were saying that this for you is one of the best types of ways to get leads, because you've really engaged a really engaged audience that's going to watch the whole podcast and then sign up for your email list. And I was thinking, like, where else do you think is best to get leads? Is it just by cross promoting on email lists, or?
That's a good way to do it too. I call it list swinging. And that's been around since the beginning of online marketing, but it was even around years before that in direct mail. List
Yeah.
owners would do that. But that and podcast interviews are very good. Anytime you can get in front of somebody else's audience,
Yeah.
that's the thing. The beauty of that is that you're getting a lead, somebody who listens to this, for example, and who is not completely turned off by something I say or bored by something I say and leaves, but is interested and engaged in everything we're talking about here, then takes the effort to go to my site and opt in and is on my list. That's a very, very good lead.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they're never going to leave or that they're going to buy anything, but you're not going to find leads like that through paid ads. You're just not.
Yeah.
Paid ads are great for when you want lots of leads coming in, and there's certainly a time for that. But for quality, I'm more of a 4 quarters versus 100 pennies kind of guy. Like I'd rather be walking around with
Yeah.
4 clean quarters than 100 sticky pennies, and God knows where they've been. So
Definitely.
yeah, platforms like this to me are just ideal. They're just more time. The problem that people have is you can't scale it.
Yeah.
And people want to, which is
That's yeah.
it is legitimate, but it is
Yeah.
what it is.
Everyone wants to like just pump out content, and I've definitely seen, like, I used to just make like 3 or 4 videos a week, and it got to a point where nobody was watching them. So I was just like, okay, I'm gonna bring out one big video every couple of weeks or whatever, and then just mail my list. And it's definitely, I've seen the results. But I actually forgot I had a story for you about a funnel that I'd set up. So I didn't have a clue about funnels whenever I first started. I just like sold my course, and I had an email list on Aweber because I saw you used Aweber. So I was like, okay, that must be the one to go to.
No, they're good.
But
Aweber's great. I've been using them for 18 years. I mean, I've nothing against them.
yeah, and I suppose are you moving on to your own one then?
Well,
Like,
yeah, and
yeah.
I think ours will be superior, but
Yeah.
I'm not. I would never. I can't say anything bad about Aweber. They've been great to me over the
Yeah,
years.
they're great. What's the name? Have you come up with a name yet for the new platform, or?
Yeah, it's called Berserker Mail.
Nice. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, so that funnel story. So basically I had a quick funnel where I put a couple of training videos together, and then at the end of it I was like, okay, here's my course. It teaches you exactly what I've told you about in this couple of training videos. But I accidentally put my old domain. So I had like a domain. My course is called Copywriting Blueprint, and it's just for learning the basics of copywriting, then going out and finding some freelance clients. And so I had like an old domain, copywritingblueprint.net, and that was the link at the very end of the funnel. But then I changed it and I forgot to change the link. So 2,000 people went to a page that said this link might be fraudulent, or you might be a phishing scam or something. And I just realized like I just wasted 2,000 people that could have went to my sales page. So yeah, hopefully Berserker Mail sorts that out. Like,
Well, I mean, that's the kind of stuff we're trying to deal with. You know what I mean? Because as a marketer, you're going to have certain frustrations that someone who does not use email on a daily basis will just never understand.
yeah, it's those, yeah, it's the tiny things that you're like,
Oh, it's all
you're
these little things. Just the fact that it takes in any given, I don't care what email program it is. I defy anyone to go into whatever they're using.
yeah,
Start with when you actually log in and count how many clicks it takes to
yeah,
load up and schedule and or send an email. And you might be surprised how many, it could be as many as 12, 13 clicks. And we're
yeah,
like, this is insane. Why can't we just log in everything on the page ready to go? So
definitely,
it's
man.
little stuff
Yeah,
like that.
I've had things where I've had to go through like templates and like default template, and then name your email and all this stuff, and it's all like 50 different pages just to get to send an email. So if that was simplified, I'd be much happier. Like, but yeah, I suppose I'll go through a couple of questions we have from just myself, and then groups and stuff that I'm a part of.
Okay.
So, well, do you ever watch any of the, these like exposing the fake gurus like CoffeeZilla or any of those videos?
I have not. I didn't even know that kind of stuff existed until just now.
Oh,
So
really? No.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's become like, it actually scared me off because I was like, whenever I
Oh
was
wait, I
getting,
think I have heard of wait, something Zilla. I think I even have done a video about something I saw on one of their things. They go
yeah,
after like the influencers and all that.
yeah, like some of it's okay, but then it gets very like negative, and
Yeah.
it's
Okay. Yeah, I have heard. Okay, I know what you're talking. I thought these were specific to like internet marketers or something. But okay.
yeah, no, it's like, yeah, it's just so whenever I started my YouTube channel just to make free videos and like sort of help other freelancers, and then I was like, oh, people are asking for a course, but I was like, these guys are sort of saying, oh, if you build a course, then you're scamming people, or you
Oh
can't just
yeah.
like, and it was so negative, so I just had to stop listening to it. And yeah, it's weird as well that most of the people that do it aren't very skilled at marketing, and then they're telling people how they should market. So I'm not sure if you've
Yeah.
seen much of.
Yeah. Be careful you listen to because it anybody could be anybody with a YouTube channel can pretty much have a
Yeah,
platform now,
have a
assuming
say.
they don't get assuming they don't get kicked off of YouTube. But that's the thing. Anybody who would be so low IQ is to listen to that kind of shit anyway. Would you
Yeah,
really want them on your list? Like
it's yeah,
there, there've always been these witch hunters out there who go after anyone who's successful. And sometimes, to their credit, they'll find some actual cases that are like, hey, I'm kind of glad they said something. But when they start trying to talk about things they don't understand and assuming people's motives and all that,
yeah.
I don't know. I'm like, good. I hope these psychopaths actually don't come to my site because I don't want to have to deal with it.
Yeah, and like one thing I think I've noticed you changed it. So they talk about like the price ending in the 7, and I think you used to have like a 97 a month for email players, but it's like 105 or something now, is it?
Yeah, I raised it to 101, and I did it. See, that's the thing. The whole 7 and 9 and 5 thing. I mean, the retail industry has been doing that for a long time. In direct marketing, there was a guy named Ted Nicholas who recently died, actually, but just a true giant in the industry. He did a bunch of tests, right? And I'm not even saying it's not a good idea. From a
Yeah,
purely gamesmanship point of view, maybe it is. Most people never have the traffic to test this stuff properly anyway. But
yeah,
it's not really the numbers doing the selling, it's you.
yeah,
And when I raised email players was for almost 10 years the same price. When I first launched it, nobody had a $97 a month anything. I just picked that number.
Yeah.
And then suddenly over the years, everybody's been $97, like as if I tested it or something. I never tested it. It was just at the right price for what I was doing at the right time. And so I said, screw this, I'm raising it and I'm going to do it a little bit over 100 because you're not
Yeah.
supposed to.
Yeah.
You know,
Just to test
technically
it.
you're not supposed to do what I'm doing, but
Yeah.
that's not what's doing the selling. And that's what people always miss. It could have been $102.45. It
Yeah.
doesn't really.
Literally, yeah, just to show that, like, because everyone gets so like sweating over why people have asked me, oh, like, why's your course? Mine's like 356. Or like, why is it not 357? Or why is it not 387? Like, I don't have to do that. Like, I know exactly what's in the course. So people aren't buying because they see like $2 off or something like that.
Yeah, if they're not,
Yeah.
I mean, who cares? Like, if you're doing your marketing right and you're doing everything else right, the price really is irrelevant. At the end of it, I'm not saying it's not important, but it's so the people who sit there and are asking those questions are people who've just never educated themselves in the fundamentals of direct response marketing, or they wouldn't be asking them.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that to make fun of anybody. It's just a fact. There are absolute big name so-called gurus in the internet marketing industry who probably never read a book about direct marketing. They
Yeah.
just, they just learn and that's fine because that's in a way that's a good thing about this media is that you can be successful without even having to really know what the hell you're doing.
Yeah.
So,
Just
imagine
regurgitate.
what happens when you do know what you're doing. It's a whole
Yeah.
different world. So
Exactly. I remember, yeah, you had a really good podcast episode about the learning the fundamentals, and that literally, it was so changing for me because I thought, oh, I have to get these little tricks and what's the best type of like subject line to send out. But when you learn like the psychology and all that stuff behind selling, it's a lot easier.
yeah, you realize that a lot of the stuff, there's a difference between fun or principles and tactics.
Yeah.
And almost everybody attacks this business from a tactical point of view.
Yeah.
But and I'm not. I've kind of softened my tone on this a little bit over the years because I realize why people do that is because most people are tacticians by nature. Very few people are strategists. And that's good. You need both. You can't have in an army. You can't have. Hold on one second. My dog is like trying to.
Okay.
Come here. Trying to like eat bugs or something. Anyway, in an army, you can't have 100 generals and 5 soldiers, right? But you can
Yeah.
have 5 generals and 100 soldiers. So you have to have, and most people just that's how they're thinking. They're in the moment thinkers. There's a whole psychology behind this that Stefania teaches. Actually, she calls it biz typology, where you use your personality type to kind of sell more and to predict behavior patterns and how people are going to buy and think. And this is a big one. This difference between people who think in the moment, which is about 80% probably of the population, versus people who are long-term thinking. And neither is better than the other. They both have strengths and they both have weaknesses. But I think this is the problem people have is they're tacticians. They're like Rambo coming into the war room saying, here's how we're going to strategically take over, this country. But he's
Yeah.
not a strategist. He's a tactician. You
Yeah.
send him in after the strategy's been made. And that's how most people come at copywriting. They see copywriting and email and stuff as a solution to everything when it's just not. Most of the selling is done before that.
Yeah.
If you do anything else right, you don't even have to be a good copywriter and you can make good sales.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think whenever I started, I think this was luckily I just started making YouTube videos about copywriting and stuff, and I didn't even like I knew about an email list and that's all I thought about, but I didn't realize that the stuff I was doing last year would help me out at the minute. So I was able to I went for like a 2 week sort of vacation there, and still sales were coming through from course and just clients and stuff like that. And it's because last year I was thinking, okay, what's going to happen in a year's time whenever, I don't want to be working every single day to just pay myself this month. I want to be building up a long-term thing. So definitely I would agree. And I'm not sure, like this might cause a bit of offense, but I sort of always saw you as one of the old school type of direct marketers, and it feels like there's a bit of a disconnect because I would watch YouTube a lot for, learning about like business and marketing and all that stuff. But I've like whenever you mention a name on your email list, like say it's Eugene Swartz or something like that, I wouldn't have a clue who that is. because I'm just like watching whoever's coming up on my YouTube feed about, teaching me that sort of stuff. So have you seen much of the new stuff like Sam Ovens or Alex Becker, any of those guys?
Um, I'll just say what I've seen has never impressed me. Any of these newer. I don't know if I'm old school or not. I just know I was trained in the old school offline ways first,
Yeah.
which all translates online. Most of these online people that I've seen, at least, I'm not going to say this is all of them because I haven't seen all of them, do not have an offline background. So they don't see offline. You can't get away with all this horse shit you can get away with online, right? And here's what I mean. You can be a substandard copywriter and do pretty good online because you have all these free or very inexpensive leads. Now you have social media and that sort of thing where you can build relationships with people before they even see you selling anything, which is going to help sales, by the way. Offline, it was not really like that. Not in the direct mail world, at least. It was expensive just to test something. It could cost $10,000 or more just to test an ad to 2 or 3 different direct mail lists. You
Yeah.
don't just casually do that offline. So every word had to count, every idea had to count, every principle had to be solid. These old school guys, they didn't build businesses like they do online, like people do online now, because they couldn't. Now, again, you could say that's a good thing about the internet, which it is. It's given opportunity to people who kind of don't even deserve it.
Yeah.
But whatever. I mean, I don't take that
Yeah.
away from anybody. But the problem is these laws of direct response didn't change with the internet.
Yeah.
The idea of how to test and all that didn't change with the internet. So you can be a personality and do very well. In fact, you know what? There's this book. I love this book. You've probably seen me write about it at least once. It's called Backstory.
Yeah.
It's these old like 1930s and 1940s screenwriters. It's interviews with them and how they would approach screenwriting and how they would deal with egos in the business and all that. And there was this screenwriter who he wrote some scripts that the actor Gary Cooper starred in. And he's like, Gary Cooper wasn't an actor, he was just a personality. That's like there was nothing deep about this guy's acting at all.
Yeah.
And you could almost say he was like dumb as a box of rocks about this is what they were saying. I don't know personally, but he was a personality. And so that got him roles and made him a lot of money. He didn't have to have all the tactics. He was a person. You could say that about a lot of other celebrities today. You're like, how does this person get these multi-million-dollar contracts with the studios when they're like just the worst? Well, there's more going on than technique right now and tactics and all that. There's backroom deals, there's casting couches. I'm just saying there's a personality there. There's built-in credibility. Think about a guy like Trump who got elected president. Had he not been a celebrity first, I don't think he would have made it. I don't think he would have got elected. I think he had that built-in following. And so, apply that to all the online people now.
Yeah.
It's not like they shouldn't take advantage of whatever charisma they have and whatever audience they have. That's great. But it's not going to be a substitute for learning the principles and the fundamentals and the basics of direct marketing in the first place.
Yeah. It all comes back to that because they can sell you on like these templates and everything like that. And, the next big thing, but it's definitely, I'm so happy I learned from the likes of yourself and just other old school stuff, even like Bob Bly and stuff. I think you've recommended that before. Yeah.
Bob Bly, you can't get any better than that. Like he's probably the most prolific copywriter I've ever heard of.
Have you met these guys or like
very few of them. I mean, I've known Bob just because we correspond somewhat every now and then, and for many years. He actually wrote the introduction to one of my novels for me. But I mean, I've never met him. We always talk about that. There's a seminar we both spoke at several times. AWAI.com puts on their boot camp, and I've spoken at 2 or 3 other things. He's spoken at probably 3 or 4 or 5 other things, and we always joke how we never get invited to the same one, so we can never like hang out. But I've hung out with some of them, like Clayton Makepeace, the late Clayton Makepeace. I met him a few times, and Brian Kurtz, definitely I've spoken at his thing, but just not a ton of them, but definitely some of them.
Yeah, definitely. Like I remember posting into like the Reddit and stuff like that. I remember at the very start, and I was like, oh, who should I who should I like look for, and they were saying all those names, and it was actually funny as well. I remember at the start whenever I saw people posting and looking for like beginner advice, and you just see these complete assholes like posting in like, oh, you should be doing this. Why are you even looking at that guy? And it's like, and then one day I texted in because someone asked a question and they were like, oh, how do I write this particular email or something? And I was like, oh, you should just put in beginner. You should just put in a beginner question and wait for all the expert assholes to come in and answer it for you, because that's just
And
the
just do
way.
the opposite of whatever they say.
They're all, yeah, they all do everything, but it's like, yeah, ridiculous. But yeah, speaking of, remember you said there about Trump, I've definitely seen a few things about Trump in your emails, and I assume you're not like a real political guy or anything like that.
Well, I'm not a partisan guy. I find politics fascinating just from the
Yeah.
marketing perspective. And, I'm so far right wing, none of these guys are good enough for me. So, I don't really care who wins or not.
Yeah,
It
that's
doesn't
definitely,
bother me either way.
it's the same with me. Like I haven't really I don't really have any affiliation with anyone at the minute because I just I haven't really had the time to look into it. But Trump has definitely been, I just love the way like he's so good at marketing and speaking.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
It's
he was
just,
great. Like there's a lifetime of lessons and just watching his speeches or just watching when he was on Twitter reading his tweets. I mean,
yeah,
it looked like a raving lunatic, but what people don't understand, see, people are trying to analyze rhetoric.
yeah,
He was using rhetoric. Rhetoric is not meant to be analyzed. It's only analyzed by policy wonks who like the average person doesn't think they respond to that kind of thing. And
yeah.
good ads are a mixture of rhetoric and dialectic, so there's definitely a lot of lessons there just by studying his stuff.
Yeah, and it seems like as well he's done, he just does things. He doesn't sit and like dwell over them and think, oh, I shouldn't have said this, I shouldn't have said that. It's just more of like he's like a train that keeps going and people are like picking at him and stuff like that. And I think that's the same for like whenever I make content and all that. Like I'll get people commenting like, oh, this is stupid, you shouldn't have posted this, but I'll just go make the next video. And it's all that critic stuff. It would just slow you down if you think about it.
Oh,
But
critics have never done the thing that you're doing or attempting to do. It just
yeah,
like I never listened to a movie critic. I remember Roger Ebert and all of I never agreed with a single one of the movies he liked or disliked. In fact, if he disliked a movie, I was more likely to go see it because I know I would
yeah,
like it.
yeah, literally. And I've seen movies whenever I was like a child, and I was like, oh, that was a really good movie. And then I go and read the reviews, and somebody said, oh, it was lacking depth, it was lacking this, and I'm like, oh, fuck off, I actually liked it.
Can't they just enjoy the damn
Yeah,
movie?
literally. Fucking, you're not watching a PowerPoint presentation. Like it's ridiculous. But yeah, I'll go through a few more of these questions from the folks. So any advice on, oh well, there was actually a better one there. So do you remember the first gig you ever got as a copywriter or marketer and how much you get paid?
Well, okay, there was actually two beginnings. One was I worked for and I'm not saying people should do what I did because I think it was a mistake. But when I first got in, this was in 2002. When I first got started, the internet was not the same place it is now. Let's put
Yeah.
it that way. And there was this autoresponder service that was free. And this is back when email was a very, very new thing for the most part. And they're no longer around, but they did let you have a free autoresponder, which is good because I don't think I had enough money to pay for anything.
Yeah.
And so I joined that, and they had this thing they had this like round table thing. They called it the round table, where it was just everybody could submit offers to the whole list. So you would submit your offer in, and then they would put everybody's offer in in this one giant digest email. And it was great. There was actually, I found there are people I met there that I still deal with today. And so I read this Gary Halbert issue. I was just getting burned out on the multi-level marketing industry, realizing it's just not for me and how much I hated it. And he had this issue called Why Multi-Level Marketing Sucks. And you can still read it, I think, on thegaryhalbertletter.com. I think it's still up there. And I was like, wow, I got to read this. And I read it. And he said, instead of doing things like that, or instead of even trying to get clients, just take your copywriting skills and go make deals with people where you get paid on the sales. Now you take over all the marketing. All you're looking for is an offer to sell and that sort of thing. So I couldn't exactly do that, but I did take the idea and I went to this round table and I said, look, I'll write for 5% of the sales, which is
Yeah.
like, just dumb. Like in
Uh,
hindsight, I didn't know anything about anything, but it got me started.
yeah.
So I wrote 4 or 5 sales letters like that. Never saw a penny of any money. I don't even know if anybody ran anything I wrote actually, but it forced me to get in the game. It forced me to learn how to write sales copy. The only resource I really had at the time was Dan Kennedy's Ultimate Sales Letter book. I just read it like 10 times. I applied everything and I got a lot of experience just that. And so I didn't get paid anything. So I said, well, I need to get paid. So I went to this, I took those sales letters, which made a pretty good portfolio for me actually. And also I learned the realities of just dealing with clients, people and all that real fast. And I went to this service that is no longer around called Elance. I think they were bought by Upwork or something. I don't know, but they're like it's
Freelancer.
like yeah, it's like an auction. Like you're just basically
Selling your
bidding for,
services and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
I went on there and I did get a gig and I think I got paid like $800 to do an awful lot of work actually, but it was good though. It kept me in the game. It kept me writing, kept me working, kept getting me experience. Except this time I got paid. And, even though they kept moving the goalposts a little on me and adding new stuff along the way, because you don't get paid everything until it's done. And so, I thought, man, that's kind of shady, but whatever. I mean, ultimately they did pay me everything. And I took that money and invested it in more copywriting education. And, that's how I basically financed my education. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that helps anyone, but that's how I got
Yeah.
started.
Definitely, you're right there, because I've sort of transitioned from where I was just complete beginner, just sending emails out to companies being like, yo, I'll write you some sales emails, because I didn't really know what I was doing. And then I kept doing it. I got some really like low paid gigs, and then I got like $1,000 gig or something. But then after that, I was still doing like free stuff, and I realized it was far better that I just do stuff that doesn't really pay me as much, because then I'll get experience and then I'll have some momentum. And so yeah, that's definitely the way. Like, there's a question there: do you have any advice on beating the feast and famine cycle of freelancing? I would say just build a list, or
Well, that's the thing. If people stop thinking like a writer and start thinking like a business owner,
yeah,
you think, I mean, this is a problem. This is the problem with writers in general. And it's not a character flaw. It's not like an IQ thing or anything like that. They just want to write and be left the hell alone, right? Like, I mean, that's what I want personally.
yeah,
But I realize I'm never going to have that if I'm working for other people. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to be my own client. And, I call my own shots. I keep all the money. I mean, to
yeah,
me, it makes no sense being a freelancer, except if when you're just getting started out and, it's
yeah,
just it's like having a high paying job, which is great, but I don't think I wouldn't stay there. And
yeah,
there's a lot of these old school A-list copywriters who have learned this lesson the hard way because they're not getting paid the royalties they used to. They used to
yeah.
get these gigantic freaking, and some of them still do, don't get me wrong. But I've heard from them over the years. And a lot of them are like, I need to start building my own thing. And it's like, yeah, because at the end of the day, you're just a hired gun. You're not building
Yeah.
anything that's yours.
You're essentially like an employee at the company, pretty
You
much.
are, you're so high paid. And that's fine, and, you know, to people's credit, some people like that. Like, take Bob Bly, we mentioned him already. You couldn't get him to not do client work. He loves doing, like, he genuinely enjoys it.
Yeah,
And he's been doing this since 1981. And so he's been around for a while and all that. But, you couldn't get him to stop doing freelancing, but at the same time, he still does have his own thing going. He has his own
yeah,
info publishing thing going. And so, he's kind of got the best of both worlds on that. But see, I just hate doing client work. I couldn't
yeah,
stand it. I freaking, just the thought of it actually just gives me a
yeah,
visceral reaction in my gut. So it is
yeah.
what it is.
No, I feel the same. Like, I still do it just because I don't know why. I should stop, because I think I could scale the sort of selling the course and all that. But I tell people when they're freelancing, like, get in, get out. I just, it gets you your first couple of thousand a month, and then I don't know. Some people do love it. I have talked to like students of mine that have done really well, and they've got, they're like, oh, I actually love client work. But then it's whenever someone comes to me and they're like, oh, we think we should use a red colored button, or we think you should change this. I'm like, I don't care. Like, you hired me to do the copywriting. I don't know why you're telling me what to do. So yeah.
Well, that's the thing. David Ogilvy used to say, why buy a dog if you're going to bark yourself? That's what he would
Yeah.
tell his client.
Yeah, that's
And again, there's nothing wrong with doing client work. In fact, I mentioned, well, actually, you brought up Gene Schwartz earlier.
Yeah.
He was very smart about doing client work. He did client work, but he had his own publishing company. And what he would do is he would sell similar products than his clients, and he would write for free. He just wanted access to their mailing list names, so he can mail his. And now that was genius.
That's incredible. Yeah.
That's strategical. That's what I'm talking about. Strategy versus tactics, right there. That
Yeah.
Think of how much more he made doing that than he ever would from a fee. It just you can't even compare them.
Yeah, like I've definitely been told that before. I met a good copywriter there. He was doing quite well for himself, and I was around for dinner, and he told me that instead of going for these, like, just for a straight monthly retainer, just get some royalty deals going, and that CPA sort of stuff where you get percentages. And he said, like, I've looked back and I would have made like 20, 50 times as much money if it had just, took a bit of risk.
I resisted that, offer many times. I just knew that was not a good, like, I think all that shady shit anyway. So,
yeah. I'm the same. I like just having money, like money up front, so you're going to get paid. But yeah, as I said, like, I'd definitely love to go more into the info publishing. And with, I don't know, are you still bringing out any books or anything like that? Have you anything planned?
Oh man, that's all I've been doing the last 3 years.
Oh,
God,
really?
I'm so sick of writing books. And I thought I was done after my El Bembo Press book, which is my whole publishing model. I did that, and I think I published that in October 2020. And I'm like, I'm done. I told Stefani, I'm done with these freaking books. I'm so sick of writing and launching books. I'm just tired of it. And then a month later, we decided to launch a social media platform. And I guess I'm writing another book.
Yeah.
So I never say never, but I want to write fiction now. I'm a fiction. I want to get into that now. So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way to go. Like, I think for the whole digital products thing, I'm not sure what. I've probably asked you for a bit of advice myself. So I sell like a £356 UK pounds course for just teaching people beginner, like, some lead gen and how to write copy, and I show them some case studies. Do you think, I don't know, I suppose you probably need to know more about my business, but I'm not sure what angle to go for or how to scale it, and I'm worried about how much to price my course and stuff like that. Do you think it's better to go? So I've got like a $500 course, and I've seen people make like $6,000 or $7,000 a month from what they've learned inside. Do you think it's worth upping that to $1,000, or what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, that would take a lot of research on a lot of different things. There's no way I could give you an intelligent answer to that.
Yeah, I
But
know.
this is where experience comes in, man. Sometimes you just got to go do with what your gut tells you and see what happens. And maybe it doesn't work, but that's good intel. Maybe it does work. Maybe you'll learn something new out of it. Like, this is a process of discovery, and this is why people, this is a lesson though. A lot of people out there, and I get it. I mean, we're all kind of, especially at the new stage, looking for a checklist, right? They want to not make mistakes. And I get it. Nobody wants to waste time and money with mistakes. I totally understand, but you kind of have to. You almost should go out looking try to make mistakes, because you know what it is? It's very similar to just science in general. Let's talk about science real quick. Since everybody's like suddenly a scientist with the COVID stuff, like now everybody's a scientist. Everybody loves science. Everybody's pro science. Everybody's science science that. They stand with science. All these people probably barely passed fucking physical science class 101.
My
Suddenly
parents have
they're all
my parents have become professors overnight. So
they're all Walter White from Breaking Bad. Suddenly, and so here's the thing though. Almost everyone who talks about that kind of stuff, without even getting into specifics of what I'm referring to, none of them approaches it like an actual scientist does. A scientist has a theory, and they don't try to prove it right. They try to break it and prove it wrong. And that's how it is with business and marketing. Don't try to don't necessarily go into it with this attitude that I can't fail. No, failure is not, it's just a result. That's all it is. And that result gives you intel to make things better the next time and to
Yeah.
get closer to whatever the truth is that you're going after. So, don't be afraid of failure. And that, by the way, this brings us back to the internet. It's the cheapest media in the world to fail on. You're
Yeah.
not spending $20,000 to test an ad like they had to in the old days. It's a totally different, you can do it for free now, and it's great.
Yeah, like I remember my first videos on YouTube, I was like, so I'm still doing a media production degree in England, and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna smash this out of the park. I'm gonna come onto YouTube with a great setup, and all the other copywriters are just using like their phones and shit. And then like I look back at my first videos and it was out of focus and you could barely hear me and like it was just awful. So, but now obviously it's a far better setup, but I had to fail at the start. I thought I knew everything and I thought like I could get shortcuts to like avoid failure, but you're 100% right. You can't, you just have to do it. It's the experience. But yeah, definitely. I'll go through, I'll still go through a few more here. So what is your, well, I had a question about how would one get onto the Ben Sattel email list to promote something?
To promote on my list.
Yeah, say I want to promote something on your list. How do I go about that with, like I
Oh, I
said?
don't. I just promote my own stuff these days. I don't do any of that kind
Yeah.
of stuff.
Yeah, because I was wondering, like, as I said, I thought it was like the old school guys. I didn't know how to network with these guys with huge lists because I just
Well,
usually
some
see.
of them, like will do that. It just depends. My business model is I'm it's my world, so I'd rather just sell my stuff. But
Yeah,
I'll do joint ventures with people every now and then. But those are very heavily curated people whose stuff I personally use,
yeah,
and I have a whole method for even how I pick products to sell, and it's that's a whole other thing. But there are marketers out there looking for offers to sell. You just have to go find them, build
yeah,
relationships with them, and then don't approach them with like, how do I sell my stuff to your list? Approach them with like, find out what they're already wanting, and maybe you have maybe you could get what they would like to promote, right? It's
yeah,
a whole different way of approaching it.
yeah, yeah. You're like, I just suppose I sort of need to like network a bit more and just get myself
It's
out
all
there.
it's all relationships at the end of the day. It really is. It's all and it's not like, if someone says no, it's not personal. Like, for example, there's a guy on my list. He's in copywriting and all that. He's one of my customers, and he has a product about how to do market research for copywriters, right? Which
Yep.
is a hot button. There is a hot button. There is a market out there. It's such a small, like, it would appeal to such a small part of my list. It's not even worth it. And
Yeah,
I know this because I've made this mistake in the past. I know my list. But he has done joint ventures with people with pretty big names and stuff who did want to sell that. So, it's just a matter of getting out there and making relationships, finding out what people, well, this is at the end of the day, dude, this is what it comes down to: finding out what people want and showing them how to get it. But first, you got
yeah.
to find out what they want, not try to guess what they want.
You've sort of answered this, but if you had to start over from scratch, no reputation contracts or contacts or portfolio, and you had 3 months of living expenses as a runway, how would you start making money as a copywriter?
I would actually go find clients at that point, because 3 months is not the problem. With 3 months is you're going to be needy, and
Yeah,
neediness is going to cause you to waste time and actually make errors, not just mistakes, but blunders, because you're going to do everything for the wrong reasons. I would take that 3 months, save the 3 months living expenses, and spend as little as possible and try to go get client work, where I could get paid to write copy and make relationships with clients from which I might be able to sell my own offers to eventually. That's another asset that clients give you, is they have lists. Well,
yeah,
they might be good joint venture partners for you later. You never know. So
yeah.
that's what I would do.
That's smart because I was thinking of that. Like I whenever I started, I went for sort of fitness and supplements and all that sort of stuff. But if I had went for like coaches or marketing like info product guys, I probably would have had a lot more connections right now. But yeah, that's something I would never have thought of, is just to sell to their list as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, so also what's your advice on finding a mentor? Do you think you need a mentor or a coach?
I've never had, I get in trouble for saying this. I'm like, it sounds like I'm anti-coach. I'm really not. I've just never had one. I've never needed one. I'm more of I'd rather just figure it out. And I'm self-taught, get the right books, get the right programs.
Yeah.
That said, there is a time in some cases, and some people just need it. And I, all I can tell you is this, all right? Now, my dog is in the room here with me, and she's about 16 years old. I got her in 2007, so I think she's like whatever age, 3 or 4. And I've had her for many years. And this dog has been the best dog I could ever ask for in my entire life. But I walked dogs at the dog shelter for about 6 months every day looking for a dog that I wanted. I didn't, there's just, the other dogs are great. There's nothing, I walked them. I enjoyed walking them. I enjoyed their personalities. But it was when I met this dog, I just knew this was my dog within, 1 minute. So I think that's how it is when you're picking a mentor or coach. You should go talk to a lot of them. Go walk a lot of dogs. And then you'll just know that you'll run into that person who just is your person, and you'll know it. And this has been my case for other things too in life, like studying martial arts and these other things. You just kind of know who that person, you won't know about until you talk to them.
Yeah.
And so that's my, and I don't know if that's good advice or not, because I'm not a coach guy, but that's what I would say.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good one. Like I never had a coach or anything. I've basically got here my own, and that's why there's some things are like missing where I don't have like that many contacts in copywriting, but or even the business. It's just sort of figuring it out. But yeah, so I've got another one here. What common pieces of advice about writing copy are actually junk or overrated? That's a bit of a broad one.
Yeah, it's
maybe
I'll tell you what, I'll give you a conceptual answer to this. And that is, there's this movement term, I don't really want to call it what's working now, where everybody's like obsessed with what's working now in copywriting. And to a degree, you should know what's working now for various different, whatever industry you're in, but don't be a slave to it. And I'll give a real quick example. When I was in the self-defense niche for a while from someone who used to teach me self-defense. And then I kind of got out of it, and I studied a very specific thing, things that like John Carlton, the copywriter, was doing. He's a great copywriter, and he did a lot of cool ads in that market, like Black Belt Magazine and all that. And then a couple of years later, I got a different client in that industry named Captain Chris Pizzo, who was by far the biggest in that entire industry, like by far. And he did a customer analysis of his 10,000 best customers. And he had the Nielsen company, who they do the TV ratings and all that, analyze his customers, their demographics, their age, everything you'd want to know. And we found out that the real market for self-defense, and maybe this has changed in the last 12 years, I don't know, but was not the people reading Black Belt Magazine, not people who would even know what Kung Fu, like they wouldn't know the difference between Kung Fu and Kung Pao Chicken. They have no idea. They're not going to go put on a robe. They're not going to go to a class, all that stuff. It was not the market. The real market were like these type A personalities, like entrepreneurs, doctors, lawyers, people who just wanted to be badasses and didn't really want to have to work for it, who had like military penis envy, like they wanted, but that was good information. We just blew everyone away with this. If I focus on what's working now and looking at what all the popular copywriters are doing in like the martial arts magazines, we would have made way less money. So it's not about technique. A lot of it's just about finding where the right market is.
Yeah, and a lot of that comes with experience too. Like you'll know how to look out for this sort of stuff rather than just pick whatever someone's doing. Yeah, I think that's 100%. And are you still doing, I've been listening to the podcasts, I think they're from like 2017 or something. Are you still doing martial arts?
Yeah, I do. I only do it once a month because I live 3 hours away from the place, but I do go once a month, and it's great.
Yeah, sounds good. So I'm not sure we have many more questions. I think we've covered most of the stuff here, but I suppose I had one more. What's your day-to-day like now?
My day-to-day, I used to brag about having a 10-minute workday because I really, and this was literally, I would get up, write an email, and be done because I had all my shit together. But now I'm in software, and I'm in all these I got my hands in all these other things. Now I work all day. So the day-to-day is get up about 3 a.m. and I start working. I think I've been up for the last 3 hours working before this call. And then I'll get more work done today. And, I take very long walks 3 to 4 days a week that are 10 miles long. So that's like 3.5 hours where even during then, that's where I get my learning in. That's where sometimes I talk to my business partners. Sometimes I'll even tap an email out on the beach while I'm walking.
Yeah.
Once in a while. That's not very, I don't like doing it. But my point is, so the work day is pretty much all day now. It's just not sit down and write copy all day, but it is working all day. So it's a lot of work, but I like it. I prefer it this way.
Yeah, and I assume you have like, I sort of go through stages where it'll be like a month or two where I'm really focused on doing something, and then there's a month where I'm doing nothing and just sort of like chilling out. And I'd say you're probably the same, are you?
What was that? I'm sorry. There was a little bit break up there.
So I've gone through it where like I have phases where I'll work really hard for a month or two, like a couple of months, and then I'll take a break and not do anything really.
Yeah, actually, I started forcing myself to take Sundays off because I really need that day off. So rest is important. But you know what? When you're on fire and you got something to do and you got a deadline and you're building something that's going to transcend you and is bigger than you, and you're building it, sometimes you just got to do what I did. I just went several years straight of just 7 days. But eventually you got to rest or you're going to burn out, and that's a real big problem for people.
Yeah, definitely. I've had it. I remember saying to my mom one day, I was like, I feel burnt out. And she was like, oh, I've raised 5 kids here. What do you mean you're burnt out? Because I'm writing emails and stuff. And she's like, she couldn't believe that I was burnt out. But you definitely do get it from just like overworking and focusing on stuff. But yeah, I think we're going to call it quits here because Ben has to go and we're all busy. So thank you very much, Ben, for hopping on the podcast today. This is probably the first podcast. I'm going to try and make this a series for any of you who are watching. So make sure to subscribe and like and all that sort of stuff. I'll put this on Spotify and everywhere I can. If you have anything to plug, Ben, obviously you should go and check out Ben's email list, just bensettle.com. But if you've got anything you want to mention, just your softwares or anything like that, shoot away.
Oh, that's good. Just bensettle.com is where to start. And if you like what you see there, join the list. And if you like that and you want to buy stuff, believe me, you'll hear from me every day as long as you're on my list.
Yeah, sounds good, man. All right. Thank you very much. And we will see you next week.